Good afternoon, Market Chameleons, and everyone joining us for the first time. Thanks for coming by and checking out our midday options report with Ryan Mastro. My name is Will McBride. Let's take a look at the disclaimer before we get started. Please be aware that neither Market Chameleon, Ryan, or myself are registered investment advisors or a broker-dealer. If you're searching for investment advice, please reach out to a licensed professional. This show, as all our shows, is for informational purposes only concerning Market Chameleon, OptionsRobot tools, and products. With that, let's take one last look at the disclaimer, and let's welcome Ryan from OptionsRobot to the show. How are you doing, Ryan?
Good. How are you? How was your weekend?
Good. Everything's good up here in Lake Placid, which is fun. Spending some time with my daughter. She's playing a little lacrosse, so that's interesting.
That's awesome.
But I think it's good we get this midday market report up with you, and I will add your screener to the stage. And why don't you lead us through a little Ryan magic?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a, let me just go back 1 second. I'll go over to the charts here real quick and just quickly just say that I think Bitcoin's still looking pretty good. So whether you're going to use a Bitcoin itself or something like one of the indexes or ETFs like IBIT, something that is definitely on my radar as an option, right, that you can jump in there. The other couple that I've been watching in that space, ETHA is one that I think is very, very interesting. They had a nice little gap up today. So that's one we're looking at in a longer term perspective. We had a couple of the others that are on my radar. They don't have options in these, but like XRPI is one that I thought was very interesting. I think it's got some good potential here. It's pulled back a little bit. So again, if you want a little bit more of a discount, that could be one that's on the radar. But I really have been watching the Ethereum. I had a client that was talking about this ETHU, which is a 2X. I usually shy away from these, but this thing has done absolutely phenomenal, going from like 60 something to 120. It's doubled, while the Ethereum is done okay, but nothing like a 2X. So they're using leverage and stuff like that here to make it a 2X. They're trying to return twice as much as the daily move. Doesn't always happen. And then you also have some of that decay sometimes. So when it's not moving a lot, this thing decays away and kind of pulls back. So I would shy away from the 2Xs unless you're going to be holding it only for a couple of days and get into there. Now, market-wise, when we look back at our market, I think it's been a kind of a good market for the Qs. Maybe not the best, but you look at the spiders, maybe gotten out a little out in front of this. I think the breadth of the market has picked up. So that's done a lot better. So I think that's helped the broaders name, like your SPY, your IWM. They've done a little bit better as breadth has improved. One way you can look at that would be RSP. And that is a equal weight S&P 500. So this is one we look at in terms of trying to gauge if there's more movement out of the RSP, then more of the lower name stocks are moving up, right? So I think that's something you want to keep an eye on in terms of what's going on. Now, as we look for the week, what really is starting to come out, obviously earnings. We have a ton of earnings this week. Meta and Microsoft on Wednesday. We have Apple and Amazon on Thursday. We have the Fed on Wednesday. So these are all things that we're looking at for the week. Is make sure we're not going to get caught up in earnings plays where, we could be at work, right? Last thing you want to do is be caught off guard and you're getting these moves associated with something around earnings. Someone's starting to make calls and starting to push things because they're in the limelight and starting to push this. So we try to stay away from a lot of those names. A couple that have been on our radar, I'll just kind of shoot through a couple of these because I thought they were interesting. Today, Dick's Sporting Good was looking interesting here, making a new high on this action here. You look back on something like a Caterpillar, right? This one was just making new higher highs and just keeps going. More trade deals keep coming in from these tariff deals. So as they get solidified, does that mean more business for the U.S.? Maybe that helps Caterpillar in that way. We had Home Depot that was actually starting to look decent, right, in terms of against a pattern, right? So these are just kind of patterns that we look for. And again, potential here, like starts to break through here, maybe tries to reach up to here, something along those lines. Now, what I'll do is I'll come back in and look in Market Chameleon and I think that should pop up. One of the scans I use on a pretty regular basis is not so much where I'm trying to like over filter something where I'm drilling down into here. Again, you can see ones that have upcoming earnings or just released, those types of things. But one of the things, a very simple scan that I like to do, if I'm looking for cheap options and I'm looking for opportunities, it may not be where I can marry the two up together, in the sense that I know exactly where it is in terms of the chart or where it is. But if I know it's on the cheaper side of the implied volatility, so using something like where are we in terms of the implied volatility percentage rank, that's just going to show me that we're trading down near the low of the range that I can kind of give me an idea. So something like a Tesla just had earnings, right? So if I were to go into Tesla, look at, how that starts to look on the chart, and we go over here to my charts, go to stock info chart, right? We can start to see, okay, the stock's been doing okay, right? In terms of, where we are on that price action. So you look at the bigger chart of, let's see, I want to look at my, let's see, like a 3-month. And we did have a pullback in here, right? But they've been doing a pretty good of running and gunning. So if I go over to OptionsRobot, we can look at the chart there, and you can see a little bit better on the candles. And there we go. So that zoomed in here a little bit. You can see the gap down we had from earnings, and they're moving it up pretty well here. So again, this could be something where you want to put a trigger on, and you figure, all right, could this start to break out and get going? It's a little expensive, right? You start to look at the options in here, and if I wanted to trade it, we can just go over here and explore the Tesla options. And you can see if I wanted to trade it, I'm going to be spending something like $7, right? So maybe a little bit expensive for some people in terms of how much money do you want to trade, and kind of go down that path. But here's the thing. Even though it's $7 is relatively cheap. Now, this is this week alone, just for the next 4 days. So again, to go out in time, you go out to something like 8:15, give yourself 2 weeks of action on that. And you can see we're trading at, is that right? 330 on the stock. Yep, right about there. So you are about $13, $14. So again, you start to get into, give yourself a little bit more time. Maybe you want to do something like a call vertical, where you buy something at the money, sell something out of the money, and you're reducing your exposure, total premium outlay. So I think that's something I like, that when you look at it from the Market Chameleon perspective, is saying, I know I'm getting cheap options. What can I play? Where can I position myself? But you still have to think about how much capital you want to spend from a overall kind of portfolio perspective. How much money do I want to put in per position, right? So those types of things. So I would go through this list. Circle has been on the radar. This thing's kind of gotten beaten up a little bit. Rio Tinto, not doing much today. Key Corp, again, relatively cheap option in terms of the options, but percentage change. You want to see stuff that's going to start to move in your favor and start to show you how, this percentage change in terms of the implied volatility. But down here, and this is one where I would start to look at my radar, start to put on what the percentage change of the stock is. Obviously, that's a Tesla ETF. I'm not going to be touching that, but could be very interesting. This GE Veranova has been absolutely on fire, but again, $642, a little bit expensive. So I'm going to be using this type of a filter. I can go to the second page because I know I'm still at the lower end of my range of where I would want to be. Kroger, JP Morgan, couple names in here. MicroStrategy's up a little bit here today. We look at that over here. And again, you look at your options, it's an expensive stock, right? It's kind of in line with where, let's see, type it in properly, MicroStrategies. It's kind of in line with where we are in terms of that cheaper implied volatility, but it's expensive to play. This is kind of going along with what's going on in your Bitcoin, right? Maybe pulling back a little bit. The other one I would look in here, Hood, is one I think that's very interesting, right, in terms of that action. But one that caught my eye today, just from a news-based perspective, is PayPal. PayPal going to start to do something a little bit differently. So this is one I'm going to put on the radar. And you look at your implied volatility, it's not too bad in terms of where you're at. And we're at kind of the middle of the range. The only problem with this one, why I'm not going to do anything here, is it's got earnings tomorrow. Now, they came out with really great news that they're going to be able to accept 100 different offerings for different types of cryptocurrencies. So you can trade through in and out and do all that stuff with them, and be able to do that or on an e-commerce platform. So you can actually buy stuff with those cryptos. So that to me is going to be a game changer, and PayPal's trying to be on the front end of that. So that actually took down Coinbase today. That was down pretty significantly here. So that was down something like $12 here at the moment. So that's got to be on the radar. So
Ryan, just to clarify, PayPal is going to not only allow you to trade a multitude of cryptocurrencies, you're going to also be able to transact using PayPal with those cryptocurrencies. Is that
I believe so. Yes. Yep.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was very interesting. So that could be one you want to put on your portfolio. Maybe look post earnings where, maybe if it drops a little bit or the unimplied volatility drops, then you get in on a cheap option. Or if you get any kind of a downtick on the stock, maybe that, could be something. But, Coinbase on that news is obviously falling because they don't have that capability, right? They don't have that transaction capability to be able to do that. I think they do have a credit card, but I don't think it's working the same and have as much flexibility as a PayPal.
So when you just mentioned cheap option, Ryan, we did have a question, and this came over, and I'll show the question on the screen so everyone can see it. This question actually came from someone on LinkedIn, and he asked, if you have a view, and you just mentioned a cheap option, maybe in PayPal, look for something. If you have a view, why options? Why the delta haircut was the question. I don't know if that's something you want to ask.
Yes, so I'll tackle that if you want me to. So, the reason we use options, one is solely for the leverage perspective. I mean, I'm not going to cherry pick. The higher the stock, obviously, the better advantage you have. It's one thing if you're looking at a $5 stock. Yeah, I'm going to be playing the stock, right? It's kind of, to me, it's like an option anyway. But if I get into take Coin, for example, Coinbase, you're trading at $300 in terms of Coinbase. And I can go out in time, right? If you're you have a longer term opinion, and I have the ability to jump into an option that I have a longer term opinion on. Personally, I don't care about dividends at all. Dividends are irrelevant to me because I can sell premium and make up those dividends very, very quickly. So something that Coinbase doesn't have dividends, I don't have to worry about that. But let's just take Coinbase as an example. If you look at the price, and for me to buy this, how expensive that would be. Okay. Now, if I go to my options and say, all right, I have a $300 stock, obviously you can say, if I want to buy 100 shares, it's going to be pretty expensive, right? It's going to hurt. Now, if I go to look at the options and say, how long do I think I'm going to be in this? I'm going to say if it's a year or it's, I can go out further if I wanted to, but let's just minimize some of these and just say, let's go out. Let's say, let's give ourselves a year. We're in, let's say August of next year, 2026. And just do a quick comparison. Now, what I do is if I'm looking as sorry about that. I got a guy blowing a blower outside there. Sorry. What I'll do is I look for an in the money option. So I'm looking at something that has a higher delta. And what I'll do is I'm looking at this as a stock replacement. So the higher delta, I'm not using it for a short term. I'm using it for longer term. And my belief is it's going to continue to go up. So I want a larger amount of delta. And then I want to be able to roll my option. So me rolling my option allows me to keep my premium somewhat the same while I'm extracting money out of it. And that's something you can't do in the stock. You can sell some of your shares, but I can stay in. Let's say I want to buy a 10 lot and I'm only spending, let's say, what are we at delta wise? So delta, here's an 80 delta down here for $142, right? $142 versus $300. I'm getting the stock for half the price, right? The most I can lose is $142, whereas the stock I can go down. Am I going to lose it all? Probably not. But this gives me the flexibility. If I get a move up $10, $15, $20 and I want to lock it in, I can roll my option up and continue to do that in the same expiration and basically keep setting higher and higher watermarks. As I start to lose confidence in the stock, let's say I have a phenomenal run, it goes to 500 and I think it's starting to top out. Well, what can I do? I just keep rolling up. At some point I say, you know what? I can go to the at the monies or I can go to the out of the monies and think about how much how much less exposure I have then. Even if we stay roughly the same in terms of the delta and say I roll up and I move up to a 50 delta, just looking at it from here to here, right? I'm cutting my option almost in half. So versus being in a $300 stock, I can capture 80 to 85% of the potential move without having the capital and being able to roll my options to lock in my profit along the way, right? Allows me much more flexibility. And let's think about it the other way. If I'm able to get into options for half the price, I may want to do twice as much. If I'm willing to risk the $30,000, I may do 2 of these versus what I'm doing in one of the other way. Or maybe I want to go with a 60 delta option and I can buy almost 3 of them. So if you really believe in what's going on, the multiple different ways to leverage that position really plays into using options versus just being in stock. Now, again, I'm cherry picking with a higher price stock, but we kind of talked about that earlier. Like, again, maybe on the cheaper side, maybe you do just want to own the stock because it's dirt cheap and you don't need to own the options. But even on still something like that, let's just pick like an Intel, right? Intel, the options are, it's a 20, what is it, $21, $22 right now? It's $20. So you say, okay, I'm going out and I want to look at something that is out in 2026, versus me, what do we say, September and the other ones? So versus me being in a $20, risking $20, I can risk for a slightly in the money here. And it's guess I don't have many options. I can get to the 13s. That's going to give me a delta of 90. I can get to 85. I can get a 75. I'm risking $6. So $6 to hold the stock and control the stock. I can control the stock through that $6 versus being in it for 20. The most I can lose is 6. Now, if something catastrophic happens with Intel, the most I lose is 6 versus someone who's in there and it gets cut in half for whatever reason. Again, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that would be the couple of reasons that I would be looking at options over stock. Does that answer? Does that help?
Yeah, that was very helpful, Ryan. Thanks so much. And I'll be sure, I think it's Michael is on, but I'll be sure to post the video and let him know it's answered.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we got a little bit of time here. So I think what we're going to do is let's try to find some ideas here as we're looking at the market. And again, one of the things look, you can go through the screener. There's so much flexibility here and Market Chameleon to be able to find these things. So, I'm always coming back. Like I said before, I'm a big fan of volume, right? I want to go where the volume is pushing the market around. So on its simplest, and I would say this is probably one of the simplest things they have, but it's not about just being simple. It's about the power of what you can do with it. So the flexibility, see all the information. So just to be able to have all this information at your fingertips, to me, is huge. Not too many services give you that ability to do it. Now, obviously, the big weighted names are moving pretty well, and a lot of these have earnings this week. So I would be very, very careful there. But I see something like Oracle down a little bit. Average volume, it's not doing much. Is that an anomaly here that you want to look at? Or is that something is there an opportunity there in terms of the chart? Again, I'd like to see the volume actually picking up, getting close to the average volume and doing something pretty big, like spiders, really not trading aggressively today, only about 20 million there. So again, this could be one you start to filter through and try to find where we are as that percent. So you can do your relative percent. You can see where there's really big volume compared to the average. And you maybe want to start to filter through some of those names, right? That to me is one where I'll look all the time. It gives you that unusual. Why is this one trading 48 million today versus one? Now, typically that could be news related, right? In terms of something's going on. I would add filters to this to take out, some of these very, very low price things. And, that's usually coming down into that. So again, I will filter this out and try to, but I know a lot of the names of where I'd be looking and what's been hot, like Loop, Loop. Let me just take a quick peek at that. That one is on fire today. Let's take a peek at that. So Loop, it's only $1.67. Again, coming back to, I think it was Michael's question of why use an option. I probably wouldn't touch an option. It's $1.67. It's on the chart. It looks very, very interesting. Let me go over to maybe show you over here a little bit easier in terms of this one. So loop in here on the chart. Let me go to charts. I should be over here, sorry. And do loop, L-L-O-O-P. And if I get helpful if I can type here today. There we go. So loop, just that volume search led me to this one. Now I like this because of the pattern. Taking out the action here. If I scroll back, okay, maybe this is a game changer that, you know, maybe we can see something going on. Maybe we've just spotted a little bit of an anomaly here that people are coming back into this one in terms of finally the stock's been beaten down. We've been in here. I'm not sure if I think it's post earnings, so I don't think there's anything out, you know, in the way here. So maybe something we put on the radar, but again, it's dirt cheap. I may not play an option. I may just want to buy that with a stock. So let's come back over here to our screener, see if we find anything that jumps out of us in terms of volume. This one here, again, 670. Let's move over to like number 3. And I typically would filter this down a little bit more, but based off of time, MVIS, Microvision. I think this is one had a big reversal today where they gapped it up and sold it. It's only $1, but 25 million shares trading on that one. So that could be on your radar for other reasons. Keep filtering here. We find anything that jumps out at me. ABP looks big. That one's big. Coursera down a little bit. I think there was some news on that this morning. Let's see if there's anything else that jumps out. Nothing really there that says. So what I'm doing in my head right now, I'm looking at the price here, volume, obviously GTI. Okay, it's 84 million shares, but it's 13 cents. I don't care about that. That's not gonna do anything for me in terms of looking for bigger opportunities. So now this is just looking for the volume to try to see if there's anything here in the short term they want to play. Now you're looking for longer term plays. Maybe you want to look more towards that implied volatility scanner of looking at that. Now the other thing that I like to use is the unusual options, right? So this really kind of gives you a better idea of where the option players are coming in. So where we looked at the stock volume in one way, this is looking at the options in terms of an open door has been awesome. You can see how many days it's been here in the last 12 days. That's awesome. So they continue to come in and be buyers of options in here. I have not been a big fan of the chart. Let's just kind of see if we can look at that real quick in here. Stock info chart and look at like a 1 month. So we had a big gap up on this one, and it basically has pulled back, but we're sitting here in terms of, you know, where we're at right now. So it's really, you know, something we're watching and we'll be ready for. But they do have earnings on this one coming out as well. So I'd shy away from jumping into that one. So let me clear that out. Let's see what else we got in here that looks interesting. Albemarle on the bull side, you can see some good volume coming in. It's a well-priced stock in terms of its market cap. So let's look. ALB is that one that we want to keep an eye on. That big sell-off today. Not feeling good on that one quite yet. Paramount's in there. That's in the news. Bloom Energy, we've been watching this one for a while. That it continues to take out, but that's got earnings coming up. The quadruple U has been on fire. Texas Instruments could be interesting. Let's take a peek at that. This is one that's beaten down on the chart. And I think this one could look very, very interesting. So let's look at this on our chart first and look at that. Actually, let's come over here because I think we'll do a little bit more justice in this one. Texas Instruments here. And you can see the gap down that we've had. Oops, I typed it in wrong. Texas, but that's an N. TXN. There we go. Texas. And there you go. So you can see the big gap down we had. I'm just trying to zoom in for you. I got to get used to this. There we go. So you can see the big gap down, trying to get a little love on this one. So what I would be looking at in here, probably taking out the high on this. So the high of the day is 190.48. So we can take that out. I'd probably do an entry bot, something. I'll just kind of walk through a quick way I would do this. And greater than, we'll look at the high of the day. What I say was 190.48, which is that correct? Yeah, 190.48. So that's okay. We're pulled back a little bit from it here, 190.48. And I want to look at adding an option. So 190s probably aren't bad. Buy an option for, I probably give myself a little time on this because it's a gap down, maybe give myself 2 weeks, allow myself to play this. So I'm going to look at the 190s, something like that, up at that level. We break above. And why is this still trading 174? Something's going on there. There's a bit of an anomaly there. I'm on NVIDIA. That's why. Sorry about that. TXN, I'm not sure why I did that. So 190.48, and now we're in NVIDIA. I'm sorry, now we're in Texas Instruments. So if we were to add, so what we're saying is if we go greater than 190.48, that makes sense now. Add option there. And again, I'll go to the 815 options, and I'm going to buy the one. I don't think we have single strikes. So I'd probably just buy the at the monies, and then I would just do it at mid-market, right? Whatever that's going to be a mid-market, I can try to get it. If I really want to buy it, I would probably do something like a slow and then scalp the market. So I get to here, and well, I can use the whole bid-ask spread. I'll try to work my way up through that bid-ask market to get that. Eventually, what I'll end up doing is buying it. So that's going to say using the price slicer, I jump into that. So now what that's going to do is create a theoretical position for me. And it's going to say, if I go above there, this is what I want to do. And then what this does is our templates. Now, again, I don't have all my templates in this one, but in terms of rolling, right? And a lot of people talk about, well, why would you want to roll so much if you think it's going to go up? Well, I want to roll because I want to lock in my profits, right? That's first and foremost. It still allows me to stay in the trade. I'm just taking profits off the table. So if we do get negative news that a follow up from its kind of why it dropped, then I don't want to be caught in something with when I could have taken profit off the table. So something like this, it's got an ATR of $5. So I'd probably look at using the, couple moves here for $3 and just apply. So, as I'm walking through that trade set me, took me maybe, 30 seconds to input. I can let that be now and move on to the next trade. So hopefully that's something that you guys are interested in. And again, I know we're going to be running out of time here, so I'll just give a quick pitch on this. Anybody interested in this product, go to OptionsRobot.com. We still have a setup for you guys. We'll run it through this Sunday. That anybody interested, come in, and if you do sign up before this next Sunday, you get 50% off. The coupon, I believe, is Chameleon, right? Just plug that in and you get 50% off. And that's for the pro level service, because that will connect you to your broker. So obviously you guys are in here watching this, you are active traders. So if you want to connect it to your broker, right now we're connected to Thinkorswim, Schwab. We're connected to Tradier, and we're connected to Alpaca. We're starting to add a bunch of others like Tasty Trade, TradeStation, and E-Trade, which is now Morgan Stanley, or owned by Morgan Stanley. So hopefully that helps. Any other questions or anything you want to talk about there, Will?
Nothing else has popped up, Ryan. Thanks for answering the question that did pop up. Everyone, thank Ryan for joining us. This option robot tool is very helpful, I think, to people who are trading options and are looking to put on multiple trades and then have positions that they may want to take off if certain thresholds are hit. And as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing else like it on the market. So I would recommend anyone give it a try. Anyways, Ryan, we'll try to do a show next week, Monday, maybe in the afternoon again, or maybe after the close if you're willing.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for doing this for the Chameleon community and everyone who joined tonight. Thank you.
No problem. Take care.
All right. Have a good day, my friend. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining. Remember to like us and follow us on all the platforms. I will put a link in the summary of the YouTube channel and on LinkedIn for the everything Ryan talked about today, and the link for the Chameleon discount for anyone who joins by next, I think Ryan said next weekend. So have a great day. Enjoy the rest of the day. Be safe out there, and we will see you hopefully on tomorrow's morning show with Dimitri. Have a great day. Bye-bye.